What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 467. My name's Steve. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show, and as always, I'm joined by
Ron.
You are a freak and a cannibal, and you've come to the wrong town. And John.
yeah, classic John line.
Yes.
Classic.
That's just something I say.
Confirmed. It is. You just did.
That's what I'm about to say. Here's that. Like, it's always great to come back after a break and then have a lull approximately 20 seconds into the show.
You gotta leave. You gotta let it air out there for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm good with the lulls, man. You remember I do stand up, man. I like the lulls in between the jokes. So like, hey, let's it breathe a little bit.
You're not going for the LOLs. You're going for the LULs.
Yeah, it's like, all right, smart joke, fucker.
It's all about pacing.
Let's see what you did there.
Yeah. Let's see what you did there.
Good to see you both.
Yes.
In a little bit, traveling all over the East Coast, and now we're back, or I'm back, and we're back, and we got an episode today. I think. I mean, as some version of one. We're going to talk about John's required viewing pick of Nightbreed, the director's cut from 2014, I think, is when it came out, and then I guess it's going to be a what else? Because I haven't seen a lot, but I love to talk about stuff, and saw a couple of cool trailers. I was going to mention at some point, but John, I know you probably have seen the most out of all of us, so I'm anxious to hear what you've checked out, and then I think that'll be it. That'll be a wrap up, a little quick one, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure we'll do our job to make it not so quick, but that's what we do.
You know what? We make them as long as they need to be. That's what she said.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
I'm sorry. No, but I mean, as far as like, we will sometimes be like, we don't have much for tonight. And people that listen or watch don't know this, that sometimes we'll be like, we'll make a short one tonight. And we all sort of take that as a sign that we don't have to think too much about what the show's going to be. Right. Sometimes those episodes end up feeling really good, even though when I'm sure you have this realization, Ronald, when you're looking at you're like, oh wow, that was an hour and 20 minutes. But for some reason, we felt like something about the easiness of it had to do with the fact that we knew we could hit the eject button at any time. You know what I mean? But if you still have stuff to talk about, I don't know. Sometimes that section of what have we watched? Sometimes sometimes we should just do that.
I know when we recorded for too long, I'll fall asleep in a weird place. I won't make it upstairs. I'll I'm gonna get my laptop.
And sometimes that place includes the podcast.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. I think
your video is still centering you. I saw it just bend down with you when you just bent down. There it goes.
Oh, so that's the camera following me.
Okay.
This does a different thing. Like, it'll take wherever I am.
Man, you've got all kinds of coverage going over there. You got physical cameras moving and
Oh, that was my I was trying to find the setting. It's called auto frame my video. So that's the thing it does where I can't. It's so weird. It did it to me once. That's what she said. It will frame. It's
gonna be one of those episodes.
It will frame you weird.
Do you think? Again, I guess I'm focused on listeners tonight. Do you think? Which normally I don't. I'm thinking, fuck those guys. But do you think they're ever like, oh, I can tell it's going to be one of those, like that they can feel at the beginning of one of these that maybe even lately they've been noticing that like this show is sort of a sanity break coping mechanism for us more than a show.
I mean, you need that outlet, and it's always been that for us. But the world we live in now and priorities and craziness and just life, it's like it can be a movie podcast, TV podcast. It can also just be us, getting together and having someone to talk to about this kind of stuff,
right.
or any kind of stuff,
which
is what it kind of morphs into sometimes. But I appreciate it as much for that part of it as anything else. So
yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to do something super timely by talking about Nightbreed, right? I mean, that's right on the tip of everyone's tongues.
It's happening right now. It's like in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, people have been talking about that movie nonstop lately.
Well, let's do this, I guess. We'll get into required viewing. There we go. This is a movie that I've always had. Well, I haven't always had on my list, but the minute I made a list, this was one of the movies that was on my, every now and then required viewing, you're inspired by something that's just happened or maybe even reacting to a previous pick from one of you guys. But there is a list of movies that I've never seen that I would have thought I would have seen, and I've saved them for this feature. So this was a good one to kind of cross off the list. I was glad when it seemed the right time, and also when Steve, you were like, "Oh, I remember liking this one." I was like, "Okay," so because I'd read mixed things about it, but I knew that there would be some kind of charm of like a relic. At the very least, it would have the charm of like, oh, practical effects and crazy monsters and just a different era, and an era of movies where I was, this one, I don't know how it slipped past me. In 1990, I would have been, when the first version of this came out, I would have been 17 or 16 or 17. So I would have been at the age where I was liking horror movies. I don't know how it missed me, but once it missed me, it just totally missed me, So I never saw the original edit. And I actually, Steve, I might ask you a couple questions about this, because what I read about the differences between the director's cut and the original edit was some of it got so confusing, because it seems like there's a lot of different stuff, but not so much added stuff. Like there's only about 20 more minutes.
Yeah.
But there's about 45 minutes of different footage, meaning like different shots of different scenes or different versions of different scenes. So anyway, the nuts and bolts of the movie is we start off with this, I guess he seems like he's a wanted man, or maybe he's not quite a wanted man yet. A guy who is being pressed by his girlfriend to go back to his psychiatrist, Dr. Decker, played by David Cronenberg. The director, David Cronenberg. I always love when that kind of thing happens in a movie like this. It's kind of a fun, you could see how David Cronenberg maybe would have been turned on by Hellraiser and would have thought, oh, it's fun to be in a Kyle Barker. Clive, not Kyle. Kyle Barker, his brother. Yeah, Kyle Barker and what was it? Tom Cruise and Ronnie Depp. Now we have a new one, Kyle.
Got a whole
Barker.
roster here, guys.
Yeah, our fake roster. But Clive Barker, who I don't know if people, I'm sure his name is still out there, but like he was a huge, almost kind of under Stephen King and Dean Koontz and other writers of that era, but in the paperback horror boom. Not even just paperback, but like when horror novels, when Stephen King was kind of riding high, Clive Barker was one of those names. And this is based on a book of his from 1988. And he was writing and directing the movie, which he had done with Hellraiser a few years before, which was based on a short story of his. So it wasn't the first thing he had directed. But it is interesting, and I don't even know what that list looks like of directors who are also directing their own screenplay, who are also the person that wrote the novel. I'm sure there's enough of that out there, but I don't know how many people have done that. So it seems like an interesting project in that sense. But yeah, the story is just this guy who, seems very early on, we find that he's been kind of framed by his psychiatrist. I thought that was a twist, but it's really like right up front at the beginning of the movie, for these murders. And the mystery element, the dark fantasy element comes into this other world that he's been dreaming of, that it's not really clear to me how many people in the story know that it's real. People seem to be looking for it or wondering what it really is, but a place called Midian, where we quickly discover it's like a kind of underworld afterlife where all these sort of monster people live. And they seem to be the souls of people who've died. And the movie really plays with this idea of who you're sympathetic towards. And it kind of has mostly human characters that suck, and then monster characters who don't seem like maybe the best people, but they are also sort of like, there's something kind of, the mythical treatment of those characters is kind of, like, especially if you look into Clive Barker stuff that he said about what he was going for here. He really wanted to kind of depict maybe the beauty and the appeal of being an outcast and not being like all these other people who are, the cops in this movie are violent. The psychiatrist is an asshole. Really, the only good human is Laurie. Is that her name?
Laurie,
girlfriend, played by Anne. What's her
Bobby?
name? Anne Bobby, who I kept trying to think of who she reminds me of, but I would say she doesn't so much remind me of a specific person as there's a certain kind of like stalwart girlfriend role that movies like this have in it, where it's like there's a certain kind of girl next door, almost goody kind of girl who is there to sort of redeem the hero. But I think there was like she seems, this woman in this film has like the curly bobbed hair, the little neck scarves, everything about her fits like the archetype of that. And it made me want to like, put together a list of the best sort of like it's the girlfriend, but she kind of ends up going on the adventure, or she kind of ends up in this really being the focus of the story. She was more of a main character and a more of a heroic character than I was expecting, which seems like just another thing Clive Barker was playing with. I will just add this, and then I'll throw to you guys. I did find out, I did a little bit of research. Clive Barker said specifically that he did not like slasher films, and that he kind of conceived of this movie as a reaction against slasher films, which is like, I think his idea of the Decker character is sort of a parody of a slasher character. But I think that's an interesting mix with the, the other stuff that I was mentioning, which is this sort of genre thing of just tilting our sympathies towards the monsters, which felt very Tim Burton-esque in a way. And I think the Danny Elfman score is another thing that made this feel Tim Burton-esque. There are stretches of the music in this that felt like something right out of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, the same chord progression here or there. And that was giving it a kind of weird lushness. And I would say that that's the main thing that kind of surprised me about this movie, is that in its moments where it was really going for it, it was really trying to create that kind of epic fantasy story feel with a horror backdrop, but not like stay in a genre of horror. And I don't think it quite manages to sustain that across its 2 hours. Like, it gets a little samey and monochromatic towards the end. You've seen a lot of the same kind of tunnels and same kind of characters and stuff, that it gets a little bit repetitive and monotonous. But the overall feel of like entering into this other world, and it's like a scary underworld, but it's also kind of a fantasy world. I thought that stuff was really interesting and rare to see done. Like, I don't know that I've quite seen that done before. We can talk about Craig Sheffer and that kind of style of like constipated face acting that a lot of like young men had at that age, where they were trying to seem serious, but he handles it pretty well. I came away really thinking more about Laurie and that kind of girlfriend who's ready to go on the adventure part than I was really thinking about him. He was a little bit bland as a character, but his story is interesting enough. And I guess that's where I would throw to you, Ronald. You had not seen this movie. You were like me. You came to it cold. What was your experience like? And what was your knowledge of this movie before I mentioned it a couple weeks ago?
My knowledge of it was seeing it at Errol's video and wondering what the hell it was. Like, I remember seeing that cover, Craig kind of with his hands on his hips and turned sideways. It looked a lot different when I was younger. Like, that picture always looked like terrifying to me. Yeah. But as I got older, as I'm like looking at this poster now, these characters look very odd. When these are like the things of nightmares, as a kid. Like, I would see these characters and jump out of the window, like the commercial break of Wizard of Oz. That's always the commercial break, when the Cowardly Lion jumps out of the window. But yeah, I would have been super scared of those characters. Now, they came across kind of like, some of them should be in Star Trek. Some of them should be in...
Oh, totally.
Like, some of them should be in like Next Generation. Some of them should be in Deep Space Nine. Some of them should be
on Babylon 5, which is a Star Trek show, but it's like cut rate maybe. I said the same thing to Nikki, because she came through and said, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "It's a world. This is a fantasy world where all the souls of dead people become become Star Trek aliens. Because it is like people with stuff on their face and different degrees of huge or small. But yeah." But I still I liked that scene where they kind of initiate him and they give him like, the little ceremony. I liked the way that was like a bent version of what you normally see. It's like he's dying and he's going into the afterlife to be a monster, but it was treated as like whatever they say about the, oh God, what did they say? Something about like the moon welcomes you. I don't have it written down, but there was like like he was being welcomed to a tribe, the tribes of the moon.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
And I just thought that was an interesting way to treat the idea of dying.
Yeah. It felt a lot different than I thought it was. Like, I was a little like overwhelmed by how all over the place his story was. It was really all over the place. Like, I could have watched a Dr. Decker movie. Like, just that mask was so like memorable and so well designed. And even seeing him take it off and put it back on and take it off, you just realize that it's just a well-made costume. Like, it's like iconic. Like, I could see this in like a Tim Burton movie or something, like or so. Yeah, it
could be like a popular Halloween costume or something.
Yeah, it's Spirit Halloween.
It's really, really creepy. Yeah.
But yeah, overall,
What would they call it? They couldn't call it Dr. Decker. They would have to say like you know, monster psychiatrist or something
Yeah.
like that.
yeah, yeah.
Monster Doc.
Monster World psychiatrist.
But overall, I thought it was nice to see sets and physical things, and
Mm-hmm.
I forget that those things were in movies. It's like everything is background. It's not you're not touching a lot of that stuff. But seeing people fall on bridge, people had to have gotten hurt in this movie. That's the first thing I thought was like these sets are fucking dangerous looking. Like it looks like a lot of like physical things falling on you and you falling on things and maybe a leg get caught in something and dislocating an arm or it just felt like a lot of height and a lot of uh really well designed sets. I love that they're in this graveyard, they go underground and it's this whole world that exists underneath there.
Yeah.
The first half felt very different than the second half and I kind of like that. I
Excuse me.
couldn't have predicted if you told me the ending was the beginning, I wouldn't have believed you because it felt like two different movies. But that was kind of a cool part about it. I wound up in the end feeling better about this movie than I would have imagined. I thought that I was gonna completely dislike this movie, and what I wound up thinking was, I think I would have liked this if I saw this as a kid.
Right, right. I think that's what kind of again when I said to Nikki when she was coming through and asking me about it was that like it's kind of good. Like she couldn't tell that it was good. I was kind of saying it like I know you can't tell walking through and just looking at it for a few minutes that it's any good, but I was like it's actually kind of. I mean, it's adjacent to like Labyrinth or something like that where it's like how often do you get to see a movie that really goes into a world and really tries to develop the world. And I think like I said, I think it kind of ran out of runway to do different looking things towards the end, the last act, but like the feeling of going into that world and finding out about it. I was shocked when I would like maybe this is kind of what you're saying, Ronald. I was shocked when at some point I paused it to like do some things and I was
Yeah.
watching it and I got to the part where he and his and Lori and different characters had made it out to Midian and I was like, oh, this seems like a good spot to pause it and get some things done. And I was shocked at how far into the movie I was. I expected to pause it and find out that I was 20 minutes in or something and be like, ooh, but I was like much further into the movie. And I think that's a testament to what you're saying is that it kind of moves a little bit more interestingly. It has a little bit of that kind of David Lynch, David Cronenberg kind of feel of being a weird movie on top of being
Yeah.
kind of what we might say by certain standards today would seem like a cheesy movie. Like
Yeah.
it's got a little bit of that, I don't know what Steve. You haven't had a chance to say much. What do you think of that kind of seesaw between like cheesy versus the charm of old techniques? Because I find I teach kids in a school, high school, where film students are training there, and it's like some of them are really into old stuff and really into practical effects and stuff, and some of them will be like, "Oh, that sucks. It's cheesy." And it's like it really kind of seems like that's always been the case with this kind of movie. That there were people that would think it was cool and people that would think it was like fake looking, which is I think what Nikki was trying to say. And I was like, "Get out of here! If you're just gonna say this is fake looking, you don't like movies." Yeah, but like, what do you think about that kind of seesaw? And also, just what was your experience like watching this again? And had you seen the director's cut before?
So I mean, to the question, I think it's kind of like a spectrum. I think some of these things have to be kept in perspective in terms of like a budget of a film, even of a film in 1990. Like Ronald's comment about practical stuff and sets and, makeup and practical effects, things like that. We talk about it all the time on the podcast of like, and it's kind of like a through line of when you go back to these movies that we pick in this section of the pod, like and you see how practical things were, you're reminded of what things looked and felt like. It just kind of there's more of a tangible nature to a lot of these movies, even though you're watching it on the screen. But to that point, though, I think that like even in that time period or any time period that you're looking at and comparing these things, it's like it's a spectrum of budget, of means, of,
Mm-hmm.
there are movies that came out in 1990 that looked a lot better than this, in terms of special effects or production or things like that. But I mean, this is not a movie that was like, I think the budget was only like $11 million. In 1990, that's more than it sounds like now. But I think that it's just it doesn't read as cheesy to me. I don't even think like watching it then it read as cheesy to me. I just it's a product of its budget and it of the scope of a movie like this. especially for all that they were trying to do. Like when you think about a movie like this based on a novel that has literally built out this entire world that is kind of influenced by a lot of folklore and things like that. You're interested in these characters. You have all these night breeds that look and sound and act differently from one another. A large cast, even when you consider that stuff, even though you don't know who many of those actors and actresses might be under all the makeup. But I don't know. I just think like it doesn't really feel like it kind of paces between it to me. I just kind of remember always, honestly, I remember always really loving this movie. Like I remember watching this as a young kid, like probably when it came out in 1990, being like 9 or 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I watched a lot of these horror movies way too early,
But that sounds
but
perfect to me. This movie has
it,
like that
it
bridge
exactly
quality
is.
almost between like
It
something really dark and something kind of fun dark.
totally like, and that is kind of one of those gateway things I think where, and even when you get into the the director's cut, which I did see like a year or two after it came out, like in 14 or 15. uh, the big thing like that I remember feeling when I watched this one for the first time, the director's cut, was that everybody's been saying the words in our conversation so far, but like the theatrical release was clearly, or at least the intent of the studio, was definitely intended to make this more of like a slasher monster movie. You
Okay.
know, you lost a lot, like a lot of focus, a lot more focus on Decker and that whole element of the story, and you don't get a lot of what I guess this version of it offers, which is more of the romance, the tragedy of the romance, and I mean, and honestly, like just a fantasy horror epic. Like it really is that,
Yeah.
for a movie in 1990 made for $11 million. Like this version of the movie spends a lot more time on their relationship, and you get way more creatures from Midian and in the Nightbreed. Um, and it kind of paints them in a different picture entirely, which I
Oh
think
wow.
is why I love the director's cut more, because I feel like in the theatrical cut, they're kind of just more scary, and
Mm.
they're almost felt more of like they kind of come off more as like threats. Where in this version, there still are those elements, but there's a lot more emphasis on like the outcast nature of what the Nightbreed are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I just think makes the story so much, like the arcs of all the stories so much more clear to me. Um, because they are pretty different movies, honestly. Like the endings are very different.
Okay, so
Oh,
the ending was one of the things I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
I couldn't find a straight answer on this. Is the ending? And I guess if people haven't watched it and they are like, oh, I might watch it, skip ahead a couple of
Yeah.
minutes or something. Is the ending of the original? Does Lori not kill
He
herself?
does not.
So it just ends. It just
oh,
ends with them standing together.
Yeah, they
wow.
basically they both escape it, and yeah, it's just like you don't know what is going to happen with them. There's not any clear like where you can continue with what happens in
Well,
this
no,
one.
right. It felt like what should have happened, but it also felt like at a moment where the movie was ending, I was like, oh, where does this movie's heart lie? Is this movie's heart lying like with the darkness, or did this just kind of turn into a sideways, sort of more traditional heroic film? And I think that without that, it would be a cleaner ending, but with it, it adds this element of like, when you're watching any horror movie or horror tinged movie, and the ending kind of tells you how concerned it is with that, like I think it's an interesting way to end it because it does both give it a heart, like that's a horrible thing to happen and it's a risk
Yeah.
that she's taking. And it kind of almost seems like a betrayal of her character in a way that she's so like, I want to be with you so bad that I'll kill myself. But
Yeah.
as far as a twisted sort of, I need to become a vampire or whatever, like there is a kind of thing there of I'm going to become one of the Nightbreed is what she wants. And
Yes.
she wants him to bring her back. If he couldn't, that would just be a really sad way for her to die. But like, it does add that little element of, oh, this is a dark fairy tale, and the darkness
Totally.
is it's emphasizing the darkness. They're together at the end, yes, but only after she kills herself, so that he bites her and comes back.
Turns
Like
her back.
it
Yeah.
gives a little element of like both the fairy tale and the violence of that. I just feel like that adds something. And I did find the Clive Barker quote that I thought was interesting here. He says, "I have not moral but aesthetic problems with Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and so on. on, and the notion that these characters are the stuff of which anti-heroes can be made strikes me as both morally dubious and also not very interesting. I wanted to say, look, this isn't really very attractive. Do we actually like these people? Not only Decker, but the normal human beings who make up the lynch mob. Do we really prefer these machismo-spouting bastards to the strange and the mysterious and the extraordinary?
Yeah,
I think I see that in the movie, you know, and it's like maybe the stuff you're talking about, Steve, the stuff that he wanted to get put back in is really the stuff that pushes that of just like I was saying about the induction ceremony kind of thing of like there's a culture and a society down there, and like even the creepy guy who like starts peeling his skin off in the hospital and later is like dancing with a corpse and stuff. Even that guy has like heroic moments in a strange way, and you kind of feel bad when he dies. Like that stuff is like the stuff of an adventure story, not usually what you get in a horror movie, which is kind of what you're talking about, the epic nature here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think also like just talking about like that quote kind of like tints to it a little bit. Like I remember reading a couple things like when that director's cut came out, that even more in the movie, like the themes of, you know, queerness and, you know, what were even more pronounced, which had always kind of been there and Clive had talked about in interviews and things like that. But I think that was another thing that like kind of got sanitized a bit when the theatrical cut comes about, and they, you know, they don't want her killing herself. They want Decker to be alive for a possible you know, sequel, and they kind of dial some of those themes down for the theatrical movie. So, you know, being able to put some of that back in there. And like you mentioned at the top of the episode or this section of the episode, like, yes, it's 45 minutes of restored footage, but it's 20 to 25 minutes of footage from the theatrical release removed. Like stuff that was mandated by the studio to put in a movie was taken out and replaced by that much and, you know, 20 to 25 additional minutes, which I thought was, you know, pretty awesome.
Well, you've made me interested in watching the original cut too, just to see what, and
definitely
to imagine how that would have played for me in 1990. You know, when I was definitely watching this kind of thing.
But yeah, I love the. I've always really enjoyed this movie. Like I remember when Craig Sheffer was like kind of blowing up in the late 80s, early 90s. Like he was on a pretty good run there. I feel like I was like watching all the movies he was in, like and I remember like being super into like knowing about these like younger actors that I liked because like he was from York, Pennsylvania. I remember learning when I was a kid, which was like 40 minutes from where I grew up, you know. So it's like, oh my God, he's like you know, he's in Some Kind of Wonderful, and he's in Nightbreed, and River Runs Through It in the program, and later would have a recurring role in One Tree Hill. But it was like he had a pretty good run, and like this kind of falling in the middle of that, it was like it was kind of a unique movie in his filmography. Um, that I always like loved this film, and honestly, the director's cut is definitely better, in my opinion.
How do you like that musical sequence where Laurie sings the song "Johnny Get Angry"?
No, not a fan.
I would say somebody who has made a video
Oh
of that, like made a video with like cuts from the movie and stuff in it. And so it's kind of funny in a sense of it reminds me of those 1980s videos that would be like scenes from the movie in the video. So if you search for Nightbreed and Bobby Johnny Get Angry unofficial music video, it's like it's funny in that sense, but yeah, it that felt like a real indulgence, and I was not surprised to find out that's one of the scenes that Clive Barker put back in, that was not in the original movie, that
it's fine. It's pacing wise, it's kind of odd, but
the movie jumps around. It is a weird movie in that sense, but it's like, and I think there are certain things about it that you could see prevented it from becoming like a classic or whatever. But like, if you are going to look for that, I mean, I think kind of what you said, Ronald, kind of sums it up. It's like, if you are kind of turning over a rock to find that oddball movie you never watched, this one has a lot more to it than you might have been expecting. And it's like, you do think about how at the time it was kind of probably a passion project for Clive Barker. And it was like you said, Steve, not a small amount of money to throw at something like this, to say like, let's see if we can create something a little more epic. I think it's interesting that the studio was trying to turn it into the very film that Clive Barker was trying to sort of criticize, which is a slasher movie.
Yeah.
I'll say the weirdest scene in the movie, and that I had real questions about, was the the scene with the woman at the hotel, the woman who works in the office when she gets killed.
Yeah.
When she drops her food, what the fuck was that? And why was it already a mess in her hand? And why was it so hard to clean up? Like,
was it slop? It looked like slop.
It was like when she dropped it, it was as though it was like a pastry with cream inside it.
Yeah.
But as though someone had already smashed it up and put it in her hand, and she was barely holding it. But then she was like picking it up in the weirdest way and like tasting it. That was the weirdest. That honestly was the most disturbing moment in the whole movie to me. And I was just wondering if anybody else understood like what was she supposed to be eating.
No,
and, okay,
no, I didn't understand at all. Oh man, it bothered the hell out of me.
She was so bad at cleaning it up. It was just she was bad at holding it.
She was like trying to. It felt like they were like, make it sexy, and she's like, but it's like a pile of nothing. It looks like.
Okay, you know what I think, Ronald? I think she had like a Blintz or a cannoli or something, whatever. And they only had one or two, but they were doing a third take, and they were like, "Well, just hold what's left in your hand, like just hold it up." And she was like, "Well, it looks like shit," and they're like, "No one's gonna notice. This will never be in 4K. Don't worry."
It looked to me.
This will never be in 1080p. Don't worry.
I was thinking like lasagna or something. It felt like a couple layers of like a casserole or a lasagna. Like she went under the top layer and just
scooped it up, and it just happened to be doing that. Like maybe we needed the moment where like somebody's birthday cake is sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and she, you know what I mean? She grabs it or something. Maybe they just didn't shoot that. But that was so strange. I had more questions about that than any of the other mysteries of the film.
Yeah,
I did feel bad for that little hairless helpful guy who exploded.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was wild.
Did he always explode, Steve? Did he explode in the OG cut?
I think so. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not 100%, but I think he does.
I also really loved the little kid that they became a weird little hairless cat thing in the outside world. That was a really interesting, creepy scene, you know? Because again, it feels like something out of a fairy tale. It's not super threatening, but it's vaguely threatening. Yeah. And even like the voice from around the corner of the other person saying, "Don't talk to them," or whatever, like that just feels like something out of a fairy tale. But one of those kind of things that would have creeped you out when you were a kid, for sure. So
I thought it was a trap. I thought when she came in,
I did too.
It was, she was going to get kidnapped or something. But yeah, literally just couldn't make it out there. Needed some help. Yeah, I thought it was for sure a trap.
I think that moment is in addition to the kind of initiation ceremony were the ones where it tilted me towards what the movie was doing with the idea that like these aren't the monsters of this film. Honestly, they really underline it by having like how gun happy. There's that whole scene where the cops are like the guy's talking about all the weapons they're going to be using and stuff. That scene was like almost cartoonish. But when I realized what Clive Barker's theme was, the fact that he was trying to make sure that you don't admire the cops, right down to having that main captain be so awful, racist and homophobic, and that actor though, I feel like I recognize him from other things, and I know I recognized the what's his name, Hugh Quarshie plays Detective Joyce. His death was too low key for me when Decker kills him and he just kind of dies. But that guy, I was trying to think of where I recognized him from, but he played Captain Panaka in The Phantom Menace. Do you guys remember that character at all?
I remember that name.
Oh, it's an interesting little trivia. He was supposed to be in Attack of the Clones, but they would only send him his lines. And he said, "Well, I want to read the whole script." And they said, "No." And he said, "Well, no." And then they created a different man of color character to be the captain of Padme's ship. But I just think that's kind of interesting that like, I know it was weird to be like, "Hey, Captain Panaka." And then I'd had to do that thing you have to do with Phantom Menace characters, which is like, think if you can describe any trait they have except for just the plot of the movie. And he was one of the most traitless characters that ever existed in Star Wars.
Damn. Talib Kweli, great rapper, said we go through episodes too, like Attack of the Clones.
Oh,
so it's stuck on my head.
I like that kind of lyric.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's pretty witty.
I don't know who was the first to start doing that, but I remember noticing the Beastie Boys couldn't not do it, where everything is like we've got attractions like Elvis Costello. You know, it was always taking the exact thing.
And if you lay it down the right way, it just sounds so like, oh man, I should have thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
It's like
funny.
cultural reference rap. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure it's been there since the beginning, but I feel like at a certain point it became uh, one of the techniques.
yeah.
Like,
I
how are you
feel
gonna get a line to rhyme the way you want to?
Yeah. I felt bad about like movies and songs that reference like, yeah, we gonna do Page Me. You know, it's like stuff like that. People are like, what? This does not hold up. You know, it's like you get those punchlines in movies and TV shows, and it's like 20 years later or 10 years later, even.
Oh man, I mean, speaking of teaching kids, like, some kids are super into stuff and like up on culture in a way that you'd be surprised by, but every now and then there's like weird blind spots, and I don't mean like stuff they should know but don't, but just stuff that you would think at your age you would think everybody knows. And then you realize, no, there's like 20 years younger than me, there are people who would have no reason to ever know that. Like, you'll say, oh, you don't know who da 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 is, and then you realize, like, well, why would they know who?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of an example, but like, I'm not saying Tony Soprano, that's a bad example, they may have heard of that, but maybe they don't know. Oh, you don't know about the finale of I say it finale. You don't know about the finale of The Sopranos? Like, you don't know that people didn't like it or what? No, I don't know. I've never watched that show. And you're like, oh yeah, but not only have you never watched it, but you don't know the cultural conversation around it. And then you think, well, why should you? Like, why should you be? I think kids. I was aware of culture before me. It's not like I would say. I always hated when someone would say, oh, that happened before I was born. And you'd be like, yeah, but a lot of things happened before you were born. You got to know some stuff. But this idea that you're going to know everything and you're going to know the cultural context of everything, it's like, that's almost like you realize, I don't know if you can remember when you were a kid, like I always remembered watching Warner Brothers cartoons, and it was always making references to like movies and stars of the 40s and 30s and stuff. And it's like, I sometimes had my parents explain that stuff to me, and other times I was just like, oh, I don't think I'll ever know like who that's supposed to be. I knew who Peter Lorre was, I knew who Humphrey Bogart was, but after a while you go, all right, that's a reference that was popping in 1945.
Yes,
right now it's too far back.
And then they like change their face and have like a cigar. I was like, I'm like,
right.
who are they referencing? It's like,
well, a guy would come in and say, you gotta get these guys out of here. And you'd be like, he always says that. Someone must have said that once.
Yeah.
And Mel Blanc, could do a good impression of it. So.
You know what I didn't realize? Like some things were just, I mean, I'm gonna say this in the most respectful way that I can. I realized that some of them were references to famous people, and some of them were just making fun of people culturally. I did not realize it.
Yeah.
I did not realize that there was like there's a separation that existed. That was kind of like a.
Well, that was like Hank Azaria was like even recently the guy who had to sort of have that conversation about. But it's true what he said, which is like it used to be like a bonus if you were a voice actor and you could do accents and you could do dialects and stuff. Yeah. And it's like now it's seen as, quite logically, it's seen as taking a job from somebody who could provide a more authentic version of that same flavor. So it's like. But you can see why a guy like Hank Azaria felt like, whoa, it used to be a cool thing to do. It used to be like a thing that would get you awards. It was that you could do, whatever. And so I do think it's an interesting thing that like sketch acting is that way now too, where it's like I don't think SNL has any black women in the cast this season.
Yeah. Yeah,
and so it's like, so how are they going to handle that? Honestly, they can't have the idea of having a male actor do it in drag has really fallen from favor.
Yeah,
they don't have much of a pool in that sense either. That's just an interesting thing. It's like sketch comedy has changed, voice acting has changed in that way. Yeah. You just go.
Maybe they'll just bring people in. I mean, I think they're just gonna find people. I mean, I think Ego has kind of
I think they're gonna miss her though. She was great.
No, I was going to say, I think she's not going to go away. I think.
Oh, she left SNL though.
No. I'm talking like Maya Rudolph coming back.
Oh.
I think she's
like,
gonna.
Oh, you're saying like could come back and play a character?
Yeah, because SNL has posted her in the past. Like, if you look on their site, they posted her like 10 times in the past like couple of weeks for some reason. Like their social media stuff. Like, I was like, oh, why is this popping up on their Instagram? Why is this popping up? Why is this Ego thing popping up on? I think they've kind of realized she has a value in it.
I think it's weird. We never really talk about SNL on this show, but now that you've brought it up, I love Ego Nwodim, and I really thought she had some like super highlight moments in the last couple years, and a couple characters, that like lady at dinner who's cutting the steak on the table, and then her stand-up lady on the weekend update feature where she walks in front of the desk and she does men ain't, and the audience goes shit. No, all that was so like, she really was becoming one of those heavy hitters. I was surprised she was one of the people that, like, I thought when everyone else was the shake-up, I was like, you keep someone like that. So, and also I knew her from Comedy Bang Bang and other stuff too, and she's local. She's
local.
Yeah,
I did not know that, man. And then I was at Big Improv, and they're like, "Yeah, Ego's really trying to contribute some stuff to." I'm like, "What, Ego? Who from SNL?" And then they just told me that she's like trying to give back to Baltimore, and it sounds really cool. She sounds like a really cool person. I'd like to meet her one day.
Yeah, isn't she also like? Didn't she have like a science or medical degree, or go to school for that or something before she got into comedy? Those are always the people that are great at comedy, is the people who could have done something else.
That's true, man.
All right. Well, I think that might be Nightbreed, unless anybody has any final thoughts, or if they want to sing a few rounds of Johnny Get Brave or whatever that song, Johnny Get Angry.
Yeah, no, I think I'm gonna pass on that.
I'll just say ACCAB, all Canadian cops are bastards.
I like that.
And I will confess, I never quite figured out what Baphomet's deal was. I feel like there's a second viewing, or maybe I just read a plot summary or something where I'll understand like the relationship that Midian had to Baphomet, and like why there was a fear of him, but also he seemed like kind of their king, and what was really going on. And even that priest, this is part of that part where you were saying, Ronald, this movie jumps around, like that priest who was like in the next room at the jail or the holding cell, and then like his character was kind of ill-defined. I feel like in a novel I would have understood a little bit more about like his deal before he got in there, but I did think it was interesting that when it was a psychiatrist and a cop and him, they believed in the devil, but he was the one who said the devil's not real. It was just funny that he was a priest. But also at the end, I did think it was interesting that he, you know, if you were going to have a sequel, he's kind of around at the end to be like, I'm going to get that Nightbreed, you know. He's all changed by his experience. So it does kind of feel like a world that should have a second chapter. And I do think maybe they did comic books or something. I would not be surprised at all to find out that this world has been expanded on in other medium, because it's like, because I don't know, it just kind of it feels like a story that someone would have said, let's pick up with this mythos, you know? So I might actually be more curious about Nightbreed than I thought I would be. So I'm glad to get this one in. Now, Ronald, you have all the pressure of the pick that's going to be our Halloween pick.
Yeah, man. So I feel like I want to shake things up. I want to do one from a perspective that I don't think we've ever seen before. Imagine if a horror situation were to take place and you watched it from the perspective from a canine.
Oh, I just watched this.
You did?
Yeah, no, it's a good pick. It's a good pick. I'll hold my thoughts until next week.
I'm gonna pick Good Boy, which comes out on PVOD. Should be today as you're listening to this.
Yes.
It leaked like a couple weeks ago, because apparently the person that made the movie. Shared it with somebody on a Vimeo,
Get out of here.
and then that didn't have a password, and then they just spread it all around.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it sucks, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's rough. But
it's rough. I get it, Ronald. You're doing a dog job already.
Nice.
I was actually going to go, it's rough, but I didn't want to do it. But yeah. But I did it. But Good Boy is my pick. It is a horror film from the perspective of a dog.
I have a still from Good Boy right here.
What's the story?
That's the 1990 version.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Good Boy. I just feel like it's a good change. I mean, I feel like we watch all sorts of horror films. This feels like one for the books. Good Boy.
All I will say about it as a preface is that dog is great.
Okay, cool.
That dog is a very good boy. A very, very good boy. I don't know about this Oscar campaign shiz. I feel like that gets a little bit confusing. But he really does. I mean, honestly, I'm not kidding when I say he really holds the screen. Like there is a
Cool.
there's a future for this dog in films, I think.
Okay. Okay. Oh man, speaking of movies, I saw a movie in the movies.
That's a good feature
Speaking
on
of
this show.
movies.
We should do the feature on
We
this
should
show.
try that once in a while. Speaking of movies.
Speaking of movies, I saw a movie in the movies. Opening day. Tron Ares.
Oh.
If you liked Legacy, you'll like Ares. I mean, it really is the same sort of feel to it. I think we gotta stop acting like Tron was the deepest movie that ever come out. I feel like there's a population of people that act like the first Tron had this like heaviness, this cool depth to it. I watched it. I have it. Get that out of your mind. It's a beautiful movie.
No. These have
it's
always
cool.
been movies that look cool, but I think we talked about this recently. Like they look cool, and that's kind of it. Like that's kind of the only guarantee you get.
And I'm not saying that it doesn't have some cool messaging to it. I'm just saying like this isn't Terminator. This isn't Matrix. This isn't and I think that some people try to pass this movie off because it's like one of the first to talk about like self-awareness and programs and it's like that kind of thing. That this thing's kind of been dubbed like this deep movie that I don't think it deserves. I never thought it deserved it. I just think it deserves to be treated like it is a Disney movie that was really well made. It's like it's nothing wrong with that. It's cool. It's a fun movie. Legacy got a little less nailed down the story, and this one feels like it's a combination of both of them. In fact, it references quite a bit from the first movie, and there's some fun parts some callbacks I think that people will enjoy. The thing about this thing, sound wise, Nine Inch Nails killed this soundtrack. Like it feels a little more like Drive than Legacy. Legacy felt like Daft Punk or Justice soundtrack. I mean, I don't know if the listening audience is familiar with Justice, but Justice is kind of like the baby brother of Daft Punk. This soundtrack feels a lot more like Drive, like a lot more like just chords held for a really long time. And, just really cool 80s sounding. Like it really is a very particularly old electronic soundtrack sort of sound to it. And it really works well. I thought it was fun, man. I thought that Jared Leto's really good. Greta Lee, very fun in it. Jeff Bridges, I barely understand what he's saying from scene to scene.
He is in what I call his chewing on a pork chop era.
Yeah, yes. And I thought it was bad in the Marvel movies, but like it's like you could barely hear what he's saying. Evan Peters being Evan Peters.
I love Evan Peters.
Yeah, he's quite a evil person in this. And
damn.
And Gillian Anderson is also in it. Jodie Turner-Smith and Jared Leto are kind of these like presences in this movie, man. Like, it's Ares is the entity that kind of exists in the program, played by Jared Leto, and Jodie Turner-Foster is kind of his assistant. And
Jodie Turner-Smith.
What did I say? Jodie Turner-Foster.
You said Jodie Turner-Foster. Spoiler alert: Jodie Foster's in this one.
It's a mashup human.
Yeah, Jodie Turner-Smith. Just has this presence. Man, she's beautiful and really good in it. And
Ronald, I know you mean that in the positive sense, but I just realized that's a great. Sometimes when someone asks you like, "What'd you think?" and you don't want to say what you think.
Yeah.
Like, presence is a great neutral term to use if you really don't know what to say. So, no, you were a real presence in the film.
Yeah, it was. I mean, because this movie is just what it is. Like it. One thing I will say about it. You know how you watch a movie and it'll be like $150 million, and you're like, this looks like a $10 million movie. This looks like a $250 million movie. It is gorgeous from start to finish. And there's a point where, like, the special effects are in the real world. They do this fish out of water thing that I really don't like with Jared Leto. But where the special effects are in the real world and it looks so seamless. Mm-hmm. And I know it's because some of the scenes are dark, but it looks so seamless. Seeing those bikes, I mean, you may have seen it on the commercial, the bikes in the real world.
Yeah, that stuff looks cool to me.
Really
that's
cool.
What I said when we talked about the
And
trailer.
what they do is instead of the little band killing people, it's kind of like it's like a 3D printed thing. Mm. So people can kind of ride up on it or fall over it,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool. So, I give it 6, 7. 6,
Oh
7.
no!
6,
No!
6, 7. I don't know.
You know who should really be having a moment right now is anybody who is actually 6'7".
Yeah.
I was thinking about that recently.
Yeah.
Well, you took one of my little segments, Ronald, by saving Good Boy for next week, but that's good because I think that there's some interesting topics we can branch out from with Good Boy.
Okay.
And also, I was watching Good Boy thinking, man, I wish I could use one of these moments as a background still because there's some really great shots in the movie. But now I get a chance to choose a still from Good Boy. I saw, which will be out this weekend, I guess. It comes out on I don't know what day. Maybe has it already come out? The first episode of Welcome to Derry?
No, I think it's this Sunday.
Okay, this Sunday.
I think
yes,
Sunday.
I have seen the first episode of Welcome to Derry, so I can answer questions from the two fellows who have not seen it.
Okay.
And with the goal, I will not reveal anything anything specific that happens in the episode.
Okay, I have a very important question, and I feel like it's been burning my soul.
Yeah.
Tonally,
yes.
Is it like the first It or the second It out of the new ones?
I would say it has.
There's a big difference between the two of those.
I would say it has I get what you're saying. I would say that my feeling is people will like this more than they liked the second It.
Okay.
And
right.
I think also some people might like it more than they liked the first It, and I'll say why. Because it's dropping you into a story, and you're getting just a world and it's that kind of confident throwing you back in, and there's an opening scene that really sort of sets the scope of what the kind of nightmare scenes or whatever we want to call that kind of stuff that happens in an It film, right? Those scenes can go all kind of crazy places, and it really opens with a scene that just keeps evolving and keeps getting kind of creepier and more intense, and I think that knowing that you're not connected to the rails of the structure and the story of it, that it's this group of friends and we're following this one group of friends, and we're going to see them in one era and then we're going to see them in another. All that stuff I thought was successful, and I think I liked Chapter 2 more than some people did, but I also can see why the first movie was well regarded and the second one left a lot of people cold.
Yeah.
This feels like a more fun, could almost feel like an anthology. I don't know what's going to happen in the second episode. I'm assuming we're going to follow some of the characters from the first episode, but the first episode really gives you what feels like a chapter of okay, this situation started, it got fucked up, some crazy shit happened, and then you're left at the end with a new status quo. So it's if the show progresses like that and keeps expanding through the town, the techniques it's made with and the style it's made in, I mean, I think this first episode, I honestly don't know, is it directed by...
Andy Machete, yeah.
So it's directed by the guy who directed the movie. And the first 4 episodes, at least, of the show are. So it has the feel of the movie. And it really feels like they're setting up something interesting. The goal of the show is since Pennywise appears every 27 years, this is set in 62, then there's going to be a season set in 35, and then there's going to be a season set in 1908. That's the plan of doing 3 seasons, each one being a different like manifestation of Pennywise coming back.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
they're going to get at the answers to the questions of like, what's Pennywise doing? Why is he staying in Derry when he could go anywhere? Like, what is that
Okay.
mythos of that character?
Wow.
And they're going to kind of do it by like peeling back the layers of the onion of like occurrences. And each time he appears, it's like a rash of these things happening, just like we saw in the other movies. So in a way, I think that again, to me, that's a really fun structure, and I feel like it feels really smart. And if it holds on to the quality and the pacing and everything they'd managed to do in episode 1, it's like you hang in there. If you think you know what they're doing with these characters in the first episode, by the end of the episode, you will probably have a different opinion of what the show might be doing. And I feel like, to me, it feels more fun and more like nasty and you know, like, so yes, I guess that's a short answer would be, I think you might like it more than you did It Chapter 2, Ronald.
Okay.
If that's
cool.
that seems like that's the question hiding behind your question.
Yeah. This answers it very clearly. I appreciate that. That's a great response to that question.
Steve, any thoughts or questions?
I'm excited to watch. I gotta say, like we were talking about watching it. I thought I might be able to watch it before we record it. So I gotta just to acknowledge, I did see the opening sequence of episode 1, and yeah, I'm all about that.
You can confirm what I'm saying. It's like
Yes.
you don't really know what kind of scene you're watching. Like, what is
Yes.
this turning into? What is this even
Yes.
gonna? There's no logical stopping point. It's not like,
Yes.
oh, this kid's afraid of rats and a bunch of rats attack him. It's not like that. It's like,
Yes.
what is this poor kid experiencing? Yeah. So
I'm excited. You know, I like the idea of, especially this idea of like, you know, that it is not only Pennywise, and you know what that could mean for a seasons of this type of show. And as much as I would love to see Bill Skarsgård, obviously he's in this season at some point, but I like this idea of going back to Derry in different time frames. I love the idea of even characters that we know from other Stephen King. I mean, he's in the book, but for those that haven't read the book, you know, like Dick Halloran, you know, seeing him in this season at some point, like I think that's just a really cool thing that they can play around, like to the format of a show like this, that if it goes, it's able to go multiple seasons. They just have a lot of, you know, runway to do some pretty cool stuff with some of the lore around the book, and also just other stuff that they might just want to do, you know.
Yeah, and Dick Halloran's going to be played by Chris Chalk, who I
Yes.
really loved on the
Great.
Perry Mason show.
Yeah,
He's
he's so
been in
good.
other things too, but that's what I knew him for.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks good. I mean, again, I'm excited to watch it. I'll probably watch it before we record next week, but um it's been on my, like, it's been at the top of my my anticipation for this year for TV shows, just because of how much I love it. Um but yeah, I'm excited to watch this, so I'm really really pumped for it. Good timing too. Best time of year for it.
Cool.
What else do you guys watch? Anything?
Not on my end.
You know, I'll say one thing real quick, and I talked about this show last year, or maybe, yeah, I guess it was last year, maybe even early this year when it got around to it. But English Teacher is back for season 2 on Hulu. I tried to bang the drum for this show last season. One of mine and Aaron's favorite shows to watch together. Great sitcom, great music in the show, just very funny, great characters. But yeah, this is, I think they even dropped like all the episodes at once, maybe. I can't really tell, or maybe I'm just really behind. But yeah, English Teacher is back for a second season. I hope they keep making this show, because it's definitely one of my favorite comedy series. But yeah, on Hulu. Looking for a good sitcom. Maybe if you hadn't heard of it, go back and watch the first season. Highly, highly recommend that series. It's probably the only thing I've watched, and it's because Aaron and I can watch it together.
Well, I'll mention one movie that I really don't have much to say about that I watched as well. There was a horror movie sequel that I wanted to get out to see that I did not manage to see, which is The Black Phone 2. But I did manage to see The Strangers Chapter 2, the second
God.
part of Rennie Harlin's astounding uh,
Lee bad, probably, right?
reboot of the Strangers series. You know, I'm one of the people that really liked the Strangers Prey by Night, the original sequel to
Me too.
Strangers, and I was a little sad that this series is such a reboot and such like a restart of things, you know. But I will say that like there is a middle stretch of Strangers Chapter 2 that is like a slasher survival kind of chase scene where the main character is who the girl from oh God, what's her name?
Riverdale
Actress Madeline Pesh,
Yeah.
Pesh as Maya. That is the survivor of the first movie. There's a long stretch where she's like, it reminds me of the OG Halloween 2 where it's set in a hospital. There's a whole thing where she wakes up in the hospital and the strangers are there after her. It's not, I wouldn't call it like a great scene, but there's a kind of momentum to it and a kind of quality to, like, I felt little flashes of that Rennie Harlan kind of like sequence ability to put together like because she goes from one part of the hospital and they're chasing her and it's like there's more of them.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of a fear. I was going to say a fear factor, but I don't know, because of Rogan, I don't like to say that anymore. I don't like to say anything associated with him. So there's a fear aspect to
there we go.
just the notion of there's more than one of them, so you can escape from one and run to some other place and be running into the clutches of another of them. And that's like a cool element of the stranger, the whole stranger mythology, I guess, is that they go out as a group of three. This movie really goes out of its way to explain the whole who Tamara is, which to me seems like the worst move you could make with these movies.
Yeah,
you know,
people were asking for that, right?
right? No one wanted that part, which is the coolest, weirdest line. You know, like that's such a memorable part. But it's that prequelitis or over-explaining-itis that you get in these types of movies. But that stretch where she's escaping from the hospital, I'm not saying it's great. It just reminds me of the slasher movies I've watched for fun with friends, and the ones, and you and I, Steve, have talked about this as having watched a lot of these. Ronald, not quite so many, but like some movies are just kind of fun to watch, or you could imagine putting it on. There is like a 20-minute stretch in here that feels somewhat successful in the kind of cheap horror sequel sort of thing. The strangers aren't as scary as they are in the first movie, but even the first movie kind of treads water after about an hour where they're just toying with the people. Like it loses a little momentum of that original section where it's just the fear is just mounting and mounting and mounting.
Yeah.
And and then there's something so batshit insane that happens in this movie that I'm not saying it's worth watching. I'm saying if anybody out there is feeling like they're going to watch it anyway, I will say there is a moment that when you get to it, you'll say, I don't know that they pulled this off, but it is truly crazy. And it kind of adds something that you're just not expecting from this movie, at least that I was not. But I don't know. I didn't time it, but I think it's about like from the moment she's like awaking in the hospital and she's running to something that happens out in the woods that's kind of nuts. The movie kind of had my interest a little bit, but once she wanders back into town and she's back in the house where all the stuff happened and that you're back with the characters and you're finding out more about the conspiracy behind the murders, it really just crashes back down to earth. So that's not a recommendation. That's just me saying some of you might have fun with about a half hour of this movie.
Oh, dang. Oh, dang.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, it just didn't look good. It's crazy how you can watch a trailer. And trailers normally can get you with that stuff. And I was like, this is...
Well, but it was a sequel to a movie you knew wasn't that great. You know, so I think that made it even seem like, oh, yeah, they're still doing this. I don't know if that was your feeling. But when I saw the trailer for this, I was like, oh, yeah, they committed to 3.
You remember at one point, like they were all supposed to come out within like 3 months of each other.
Yeah.
Or some really condensed timeline.
I don't know why, but I saw the trailer. I went, oy vey.
I know why.
This looks bad.
Yeah, and it's such a weird choice to redo the first one quite so much. If it had been a different like if they hadn't tried to repeat the first one so much in the last one, I think I would have had a little bit more patience with it. But when you're just watching like a not as good version of something, but it was really just so they could have this story and where they're seemingly going with the third one. There's kind of a teaser. It was a very what's the Kevin Costner Western? Was it called Horizon?
Yeah.
You know how it had a trailer at the end?
Right.
This has a trailer at the end for the next one. And seeing where they're taking it, it's like, oh, God, it doesn't look good, but it looks just stupid enough that I have to watch it. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. I'm interested but not interested, you know.
Love it. Love it. Anything else, Ronald? Did you see anything else you want to mention?
No, that's it for
Okay.
me.
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Not too bad, guys.
that's what we call a show.
Movieshmovie.com is the website. You can go there to subscribe to the podcast if you maybe have just stumbled upon to this episode and just listening for the first time. If you want to check out youtube.com/movieshmovie podcast, you can watch, listen, get a little bite, take a little sampling, if you will, of the shorts that Ronald puts out on there. And if you do any of those things, you can hit subscribe, get a notification when new episodes come out. Any of the things I just mentioned would be amazing if you could. We'd really appreciate it. We'll be back next week. Ronald, your required viewing is the newly released Good Boy, which is going to be available on digital between now and next week, right? That's correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I think it comes out like the night we're recording. Actually.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, perfect.
By the way, not to be confused with the Good Boy from a few years ago, which I think we talked about on the show as well, and a different sort of.
Oh, right. The coming of
that?
age.
No. This was
No.
a. Do you know the one I'm talking about, Steve?
Which one was that?
Wasn't it called Good Boy? The one where the guy makes a guy dress up as a dog.
Oh no.
I feel like we talked about it on this show.
Good. I know there was Good Boys with the young kids, like the Seth Rogen comedy.
Sigrid hits it off with Christian, a millionaire heir she meets on a dating app, but learns that he lives with a man who acts like his pet dog. Trying to be open-minded, she continues the relationship, but soon notices an insidious undertone to him.
What is
It was
that?
pretty darn creepy. It was from 2022, and it was called Good Boy.
Good boy.
Good
Director
Boy.
Viljar Bear, Norwegian film. I'm almost certain I would have talked about it on the show because I watched it, and I can't imagine watching it and not feeling like I had to talk about it. But it's kind of disturbing. I mean, it's a weird one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That
don't watch that
sounds-
one.
But it's
folks.
not that one, to be
No,
clear.
It ain't
It's
that
not
one.
that one.
No.
Just to be clear. All right, perfect. This is good. And this is a nice place to wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening. It's good to be back talking to everyone, and check back next week and we'll talk about some more stuff. Maybe more Welcome to Derry, hopefully.
Yeah.
Have a great night. And as always, you made our day. Thanks.
Bye.